Welcome to tonight's coverage of NASCAR 07 on the channel. We will be Cup Series racing under the lights at the Bristol Motor Speedway in tonight's running of the Sharpie 500. So a little NASCAR 07 Bristol night race, if you will. 500 laps in this one. You guys know the tradition, of course, at Bristol Motor Speedway. So that is what we are going to have here for you this evening. We've already clinched the championship. In fact, we did that 2 races ago at the California Speedway. And we also ended up getting a win last night at Watkins Glen. So if you're wondering why I'm still going through with this season, even though we clinched the championship so early with, at the time, 6 races to go in the season, well, we're still trying to chase the laps led in a single season record. Coming into tonight's race, we are 880 laps led, less than that now. I led 55 last night, so we're 825. 825 laps led away from the record. Now, mathematically, I could get there in the next 2 races if I lead every lap. That's probably not going to happen. My goal in this race here today, lead over 400 laps. If I can lead over 400 laps, closer we get to 425 laps in particular. If I can lead 425, that would put me at just 400 laps left in the final 4 races of the season. I want to lead at least 400 today. I want to lead at least 150 at Atlanta. And I want to lead at least 200 at New Hampshire these next 3 races, because these are tracks that I think I can lead a lot of laps in particular Bristol and New Hampshire, especially New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a race I could go out there and lead every single lap. That's what we did on the last flat 1-mile racetrack at Phoenix, so that could be doable there. But as far as this one, I actually only led 5 laps in the first Bristol race this season, despite finishing in 2nd place. Not sure exactly what happened there. I didn't go back and rewatch anything. So hopefully I have a car that is capable of leading a bunch of laps. In Martinsville last week, we ended up leading 438 at 500 laps. So we got to lead at least close to 400 if we're going to have a good chance to break that record. Because even if I get the 400 today, the 150 at Atlanta, and the 200 laps at New Hampshire, I'm still going to be over 100 laps out going into the last 2 races, which are Sonoma and Daytona. So 2 races that are under 200 laps in total length, and we have to lead over 100 combined between those last 2 if we hit those goals these next 3 days. So got to get to these goals. Let's see if we can get to 400 laps led today. If we don't get to 400 laps led, that's just more laps we end up having to lead at Atlanta. Like 150 of 325, that's less than half the race. I don't lead as many laps on the 1.5 mile racetrack, so that's why I'm kind of banking on getting the majority of those laps led today, as well as, my gosh, they spun out getting up to speed. Let's try this again. Well, the good news is I get 2 laps. Hopefully the car's not going to be too loose. That's the first time I think I've spun out getting up to speed in qualifying. Trying to let it rip from the get-go and couldn't stop fishtailing. 24th on lap 1. It's probably why I only led 5 laps here earlier this season. This car feels extremely loose. Should be better on lap 2, but how much better? Picked up a lot. All right. From 24th to 8th, I'm going to have to tighten this up quite a bit. Why was that thing so loose? Well, I can't really put a whole lot more downforce into it, but I'm going to do what I can there. What is it at? Take the fender flare down a little bit. A little bit more rear spoiler. Keep the wedge the same. I'll keep the air pressure the same too. Adjusting the downforce just a little bit more. Easier difficulty playing as Dave Blaney? No. No. That's part of the challenge. We're still going to be on legend difficulty. Yeah, so it'll be Dave Blaney for the Cup Series season, but the Busch Series and the Truck Series, we will be doing various polls. I did put a comment up in the chat. I did preface it, I guess, in words on the stream yet, so Be sure to vote for who you think, or who you want me to drive as, not who you think I'm going to drive as. Who do you want me to race as on our next season for the Busch and the Truck Series? I will be racing as Dave Blaney for the Cup Series, try to challenge myself there. We had pretty close championship battles on the Truck and the Busch Series side of things, especially in the Busch Series side of things. Had to come back, actually, to win that Busch Series title. So we're still going to run that straight up. You guys can vote for who you want me to race as there. But if you only see 4 drivers on the poll right now, that is the max amount of options I can have. So there's going to be a bunch of polls tonight. And really for the rest of the week. So tonight, tomorrow, Friday, while we do NASCAR 7 with the Cup Series, that'll all be a bunch of polls basically to set who I'm going to end up racing as in the lower series when we get there. So you got the first poll right now, and I'll take the results from that, and I'll update that in poll number 2, and so on and so forth as we get through the night. But every 100 laps in this race, it'll be less laps in tomorrow's race because it's not 500 laps, but this being an even 500 laps, we can get 5 polls in today, and every 100 we'll have a new one. Green flag is in the air. We're underway in the Bristol night race. Already a little contact off the start as Martin gets to the bottom. Michael Waltrip. Car still felt a little loose, getting up to speed at least. Lost 1 spot on the initial start. Jimmy Johnson leads the opening lap of the race with Kyle Busch in second. This car still feels loose. Martin 3 wide. Menard gets cleared by both the 187 and the 6. 6 was down on the apron, just trying not to make contact with the 187. It's going to be a handful for 500 laps if it doesn't get any better. I mean, I am all over the place right now. This is probably why I didn't lead many laps in the first Bristol race. Still finished second. Only led 5 of 500 in the Food City 500. Up 2 positions from the start in the first 5 laps from 8th to 6th. Biffle and Kyle Busch going back and forth for the second place position. Both Busch brothers in the top 5 in the early going. Kenseth under Biffle. Kurt Busch to the inside of Biffle. Martin's got to stay tight to the back of the 2 so he can get underneath the 16 also. And he does. So Biffle getting brake trained now. Trying to stay close to the back of the 2 again as he's underneath his brother Kyle Busch, who's also getting brake trained. Kenseth got around him, and Mark pushed tight into Busch. A lot of contact between the 2 cars through turns 1 and 2, and Martin's up to 4th. Wow, Kurt's on the move. I'm just following Kurt Busch by everybody here. Working out for us. Both the 2 and the 6 have passed 3 cars over the last several laps. Bristol, yep. Really need this car to start handling better. I don't know why it's so out of shape right now. It's not as bad as it was in qualifying, but I can't run side by side for a long period of time with somebody because I need the whole track to be able to hit my marks. It's fast. I didn't qualify as well as I probably should have because of the handling, but and again, it was looser then than the setup I have in it now. So Martin's gotten all the way up to Jimmy Johnson. Now going to have to try to find a way around JJ to get to the lead. Really low exit to turn 4. Dozen laps in. Mark hasn't led yet, so he is now going to take the lead through turns 1 and 2. All clear. This car is so darty. Johnson back underneath of Mark Martin. I led 1 lap and Johnson got right back to the lead again. This is not a car that's going to handle well to try to lead 400 laps. I'll tell you that right now. We're not leading 400 plus laps in this race like this. Luckily, the apron's got a lot of grip here because I was able to use that to get alongside Johnson. Stayed alongside of him down the straightaway into the next turn. stayed on the actual racing line on the bottom groove of the concrete, and right back around the 48 we go. So second time Martin has passed the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. Johnson tags the left rear corner panel, though, of the 6, and the 6 chops him off into turn 3. A lot of contact on both ends of the track there. Definitely aggressive. Ethan, Michael Turner, Wade, Mark DeMars, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Early laps of the Sharpie 500 at Bristol. We had just one caution at Martinsville in that 500 lap race last weekend. That was on Sunday when we raced there. I'm hoping that when I get a bunch of laps into this race, I'm just going to be smoother with the race car. Because it already, 20 laps in, does feel like it a little bit. I'm scared for what the car's going to handle like when we get over 100 laps on our tires. Because at various points in this race, we're probably going to have over 100 laps on our tires. I have to have such a low entrance into the corner and try to get it to stick. Because otherwise, somebody, whoever's in second, whether it's Kurt Busch now or Jimmy Johnson, they're going to get underneath me. Because that's happened twice already now. Yeah, there it is. Just enough of a pull down the backstretch by Martin, the 2 of Kurt Busch, trying to put that bumper to Mark Martin. Martin stays to the bottom of the track and again holds on to the lead. Kurt's going to cost himself second place, it looks like. It has been 2 years. Yeah, it does feel weird. The Michigan races have been like the first weekend of August the last couple of years. With the Olympics kind of pushing everything back a couple weeks. Now it's in the middle of the month like it used to be a long time ago. Before I started going to Michigan consistently, at least. Well, there was one year it was like the second to last race of the regular season before Daytona. I think that was 2021. Yeah, it was 2021 because Blaney won that race and then he won at Daytona the next week. The only time he's won back-to-back races in his Cup career. Oh, wow. Loose, big overcorrection, and a pretty big hit into the wall off turn 2. Everybody else had to check up to keep from hitting Mark Martin. That Martin was able to hold on to the lead. I'm telling you, this is a handful. This is going to be a long 500 laps if it handles like this. I'm going to have to put more wedge in it. I don't know how much more I dropped the air pressure. I mean, I'm already at 21 PSI all the way around. I didn't make major adjustments post-qualifying, but I did make some. It helped a little, but we're already free. It's just going to keep getting more and more free the longer we go. We haven't even had lap traffic yet. We definitely don't have that kind of pull away speed like we did at Martinsville. Or Dover, some of the other Phoenix. Not our bread and butter short track here today at Bristol, that's for sure. Kyle Busch into second for right now. Kind of a 4-car breakaway from the rest of the field. Dave Blaney in last place. Going to be the first to go a lap down. All 43 cars that started the race are still in as we are at lap 33. Clayton iPad, thanks for tuning in. Jeffrey Giordano, thanks for tuning in also. So I will obviously have to pause the game every 100 laps to get the different polls in the chat. So again, be sure to vote for who you want me to race as the following season. I'm hoping to get through every one of the Busch Series drivers in today's polls. I'll get through 20 different options. They don't have all 40 spots. Half of those in the Busch Series, for the most part, are fantasy drivers. Same for the trucks. So we'll do the Truck Series polls tomorrow. We'll do the Busch tonight, unless we get through all the Busch Series polls. I'm just going down the list in numerical order. So down the list in numerical order to get to our drivers. And I'm not going to use a driver I've already used so far in the Busch so Mark Martin's on the list right now. I'm clearly using him for the Cup Series season, but we haven't used Mark Martin for the Busch or Xfinity Series seasons yet on the playthrough, so that's why he's still available there. And vice versa, where, like Kevin Harvick I've used in the Busch Series, but I haven't used in the Cup. Some drivers I have used in both, some I haven't. So the drivers who I have used in that respected series, I will not drive as again. So you'll have to vote for somebody else. So I'm not even going to have them in the poll. Definitely don't want to somehow find myself back in traffic in this one. The less cars we have to pass, the better. The handling is not there. There is speed, but handling is not there. And I don't know if I'm going to make it all 500 laps without crashing, to be completely honest. As dense as we know lap traffic to be on these short tracks, I've only had a couple cars so far in the first 40 laps. But I've hit the wall pretty hard once already. Yep, more contact. It's all over the place. It's so loose that I'm overcorrecting it so many times. Hoping I can pull away at least from the rest of the leaders in lap traffic. I have 15.157 that last lap. I'm sure we'll have a 14 in us at some point tonight. Maybe when I fix the handling of the car. See, it's so loose, I could really start getting back into the gas sooner if I wasn't so loose around the racetrack. I'm so thankful that the apron's forgiving on this track. It's not like that at all tracks in this game. If this was NASCAR 05 and I'd be having this loose condition at Bristol, I'd be hitting that apron and it'd be like ice every single time. It's like that on some tracks in NASCAR 07, but not all of them. A lot of the short tracks it isn't. Thank goodness for tonight. Bristol races are around county fair. You talking about like around like Bristol's county fair or around your county fair? Yeah, I saw the Tigers won last night. Needed that. Lost 3 out of 4 against the Royals. Hopefully they can keep it going on the West Coast trip. I saw they play the Mariners again next week, back at home. I also didn't realize it until I was looking at the schedule further for the Tigers. In fact, earlier today, I didn't realize they play the game in Williamsport against the Yankees. Usually they try to get like 2 higher profile teams for those games like that, and then like the Field of Dreams game and stuff. They usually try to get like higher profile teams for these marquee neutral stadium games, and really any sport for that matter, for the most part. But the Tigers, franchise-wise, I guess they could be marquee, but they clearly haven't been in the last almost decade now. But history of the MLB, I guess. Kind of stinks though that they're considered the home team, so that's like one less home game they would have had in that 3-game series against the Yankees, which is one of the best teams in the league. So that kind of stinks. You definitely think that there's going to be more Yankees fans there than what there would be Tigers fans closer to New York. So based off a geographical location there, I think the Tigers are losing out on that side of it. And they could still win the game. That's all that matters in the end. Your county fair. I haven't been to my county fair. Well, geez, I don't think I've. No, I was at my county fair once growing up. There was another one, the county my grandparents lived in. I would go to that annually up until I was probably somewhere in middle school, and then haven't been back since. I'm not a big fair person, especially like nowadays, like with dieting and stuff. Like I wouldn't even eat, you know, any of the. I mean, I'm sure there's some healthy alternative stuff, but I'm not going to go to the fair and eat the healthiest foods that are there. I mean, no, who does that? The days of going to the fair and getting a foot-long corn dog with, they'd have these, it was this thing in like Northwest Ohio. There's this like Mike's Cheese Shack place that goes to like all the county fairs around this area. Get some Wisconsin cheese curds. So I get the Wisconsin cheese curds, foot-long coney dog, or not coney dog, foot-long corn dog, and wash it down with a root beer float. That was my go-to meal every time I went to the fair every year. Not all at once, but over the course of the 2 days I was there. Like one day I would get the cheese curds, and one day I would get the foot-long corn dog. I would get a root beer float both days, though. There's usually like multiple places that would have the root beer floats, so I would like go to a different one both days, see who had the best one between the two. But yeah, I haven't been to the fair. I mean, middle school, I was probably 12, 13 years old, if I had to guess, last time I was at the fair. Kurt Busch still kind of hanging back behind Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson a bit. Mark Martin currently working on putting David Stremme a lap down. And does. Luckily, the lap traffic's been fairly spaced out at the back of the field so far. Made contact with Robbie Gordon. That's the only lap car I've made contact with trying to make a pass. And this car is very ill handling right now. 66 laps to vote for who you want me to race as in NASCAR 07 in the first poll. And then I'll close that poll. I'll take the winner. The winner will be in a poll more than likely either tomorrow or Friday, depending on when we get through the Truck Series. There aren't as many Truck Series drivers in NASCAR 07, so, you know, depending on how many polls I end up doing for the Truck Series, there's really only going to be like one or two of them, and the rest are going to be Busch. So we'll probably have a mix of like round 2 of today's winners from the Busch Series polls, as well as all the truck polls tomorrow. Whatever we have left, we'll get through on Friday. I'm really hoping that I can get close to the record. If I get close enough to the record where I don't have to run a full race, like if we get to Sonoma and I only have to lead like 12 laps, I got to lead the 12 laps and we're going to get out of Sonoma right away. I'm not going to run the full race, and we're just going to start the Trucker Busch Series season on that stream. So I might like change the title midstream, but I really don't feel like running a full race when I'm not going to complete the rest of the season if we're in that circumstance. If it takes to the season finale, then I'm just going to run the season finale out. But if I know I'm not going to run the final race of the season anyway, I'm not even going to finish the... Assuming I have 20 wins, by the way. Because I do want to get to that 20-win benchmark, and we're at 18 right now, which we could just get there by tomorrow if we win tonight and win Atlanta. So that's the goal. If we do that, it'd be 3 wins in a row. It'd be the 4th different time this season I've won 3 in a row. I haven't won 4 in a row, though. 3 in a row has been my max. 3 different times. No, I haven't had... The only other, like, dessert I guess I would have gotten at the county fair outside of root beer float was elephant ears. And that was usually as we were going home. Like, I wouldn't eat that there. We would get some as we were leaving. Because usually the week of the fair, I was at my grandparents, like, all week. I was there all week. Pretty much from, like, whenever I would end up racing, like, the Saturday or Sunday. Usually it was Saturday. I don't know why I said Sunday. Friday or Saturday night, I would race, you know, quarter midget, go-kart, whatever, depending on what track we were at that weekend. And then I would just go home with my grandparents after the race. And then I would stay there all week. You know, go to the fair a couple times during the week. My grandpa's birthday usually fell during that fair week, too. So we would do something for his birthday on a different day that wasn't the fair. Sometimes it would fall the same day as the fair, but we'd still do something else, you know, during that week. So it was kind of like a jammed week, and it would lead up to, like, the next Friday or Saturday when I raced again. And then I would end up going back to my home. Parents' house, so that was kind of like my fair week growing up. And obviously it always fell during the summer, so it wasn't like it was conflicting with school or anything. I didn't play any other sports like during the summer. Well, and I was playing football like in my youth years. That started in August anyway, and the fair was usually in July, so that never conflicted with anything either. Baseball, I only played 1 year of Little League Baseball, so that didn't really conflict with anything. That might have been like right about when I started racing. Then when I got into racing, I'm like, yeah, I don't need to play baseball. James Pascal, thanks for tuning in. Whole box of hamburger helper for dinner. Watching Food Network and come here and we're talking about food. Yeah. It's always something different on the stream every night. Try to keep it engaging. These are long races. You know, I talk about the race during its crucial parts. Already 83 laps in. Passed halfway out of gas, so at some point, probably going to have to pit, if I had to guess, shy of lap 150. Martinsville, we were pitting about every 130 laps or so. That might be about the number I'm looking at here. Even with that contact with Dave Blaney, ran her fast lap. Dave Blaney's 2 laps down in the first 85 laps of this race. He is very slow. I'm scared I'm going to be racing as him. I think he might be the slowest car on a nearly week-to-week basis. And we're going to be racing as him in the next season for the Cup Series. Want to see a challenge? Maybe we end up having a back marker in all 3 series. Yeah, Busch Series. I mean, we had a tough time winning the championship with Jimmy Johnson. We ended up having to race as a back marker like Ty Kluver or something in the Busch Series, and we're going to have some problems. I don't know if we'll win a race. I don't know if we'll win a race with Dave Blaney. I don't think anything's guaranteed. Yeah, I used to do the realistic commentary with this before I started doing live commentary streams. I still do it in this. It's like a mix of me being me and then not live commentary, but just like commentary of this race. It's going to be a little more biased because I'm, you know, driving. Before, I kept it like 100% unbiased, and it was just, you know, it was as if it was a real race on a weekend. But now that I'm doing like live commentary, I save it for that. And we have this instead. Lap 91. Our first poll's almost over. I see Clint Boyer's leading at 40%. I don't have the full poll open so I could see more of the chat if I fall behind on the chat. So I'm not sure how close that poll is. 40%, I would imagine with 4 voting options, it's pretty close. Between at least 2 of them. Boyer's been leading the whole time, though. But it's gone down. It was like 75% like 50 laps ago, and now it's 40%. So again, after lap 100, We'll complete lap 100 and then we'll end the poll. I'll pause it. I'll get a new poll up. And we'll keep cycling that through. Definitely something different on the stream tonight, to say the least, with that. 95 laps in. Trying to lead 400 laps so we can chase the laps led record. That's the only reason we're still doing this season. Trying to get the laps led record. Came into this race 825 laps shy. And we do have an extra field pass to get through in tonight's race at some point as well, because we only did one during Watkins Glen yesterday. Probably our heaviest lap traffic of the race coming up through these first 100 laps. And there's a long line of traffic up here. First handful of cars. I mean, really, we got into lap traffic about 40 laps into the race. And first 60 laps of lap traffic's been fairly tame. About as tame as lap traffic's going to be at Bristol, really. All right. 100 laps in, our first poll is concluded. It was kind of tight to the top two. Wow, only 13% voted for Martin Truex Jr. I'm shocked it was so low for him. He's retiring this year. All right, so Clint Boyer is going to win the first poll. He'll move on to round two. We'll end that. 15 votes were in. I'll get the second poll up. Also going to make sure I don't forget that Boyer won. Clint Boyer. Number 2. Poll number 2. All right, so we've got Jeremy Mayfield in the number 9. Which driver? Make sure I'm spelling his name right. There are some drivers that run the same number, which obviously we saw when we were running the Busch Series the first time around. All right, poll's up. End of lap 200. We will close the poll. Voting options are between Jeremy Mayfield, Boris Said, John Andretti, Paul Menard. With a shot for Mark Martin in the Busch Series. Yeah, he would have been the all-time winningest driver in the series at this time. Already dominating a Cup Series season. All right, try not to wreck when I unpause it. We're good. Try to get back in a rhythm. It's like our version of stage breaks tonight. Going to check up a little bit to keep it off the back of the 43. This whole line of cars is going way slower than just a single car. Martin came up off the bottom quite a bit. Johnson almost got underneath him. And this is where the heavy lap traffic really is difficult to make a pass on. Doesn't help when they're squeezing you like that either. Martin having to force his way in there. Didn't want to lift any extra once he got underneath the 43. Felt like I really held my line for the most part underneath the Labonte. Just get ran so tightly. With a not so good handling car. I feel like McMurray and Jeff Burton have been side by side for the longest time. John Andretti leading the way in the pole right now. But we got a long ways to go. Again, lap 200. So again, Clint Boyer did win the first pole. Martin Truex Jr., Todd Kluver, Mark Martin are eliminated from contention of me racing as them in NASCAR 07 for the Busch Series. Usually with these voting polls, I was putting them up in the community tab in the seasons before with the other games, including NASCAR 07 the first time around when we did this. But I wanted to try something a little bit different and do it during the course of a live stream that we already have planned out. Usually I did the final round during the live streams, but then just put everything else up in the community tab and you'd have all day to vote. But I was kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't think I have time to really do that now because I started it a little late for me to get through every single one, because I kind of milk it out over a week or two before, and we could end up starting the Busch or Truck Series season as soon as Friday, so mathematically. That is if I lead well over 400 laps today and then lead a ton tomorrow. I think I can get to 400 today. I mean, again, that is the goal. Right from the get-go with how loose this car was, I wasn't too confident in that, but slowly extending the lead through the lap ahead. Hey, appreciate you stopping by, man. Have fun. Gonna alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in this race. Second time Paul Menard's gone a lap down in this one now as well. Yep, streaming every day. Oh, contact with McMurray and Vickers. I feel like McMurray's been the next car or two to go a lap down in front of us for quite some time now. But obviously he's still on the lead lap. Definitely going to have to stay out of the pits as long as we possibly can when the time comes to pit. Don't want to get trapped a lap down or even 2 laps down really at Bristol during green flag pit stops. It'll be a 3-stop race today if we can go at least 125 laps per run. We'll easily be able to do that. No problem there, so to make it a 2-stop race, we would have had to go 175 laps per run. That's not going to be possible, at least for us. Murray and Vickers got by Scott Riggs. Trade siblings. If I was like 5 years old, I'd maybe consider it. Depending on the day. Get into one of those classic fights when you're like of a very young youth age with your siblings and you just hate their guts for the rest of the day. Sure, we've all been there. Anybody that has siblings would know exactly what I'm talking about. Martin sliding underneath Jamie McMurray, and McMurray finally going to go 1 lap down. Dave Blaney's about to go 3 laps down. Dave Blaney's probably on pace to finish like more than a dozen laps down at this point. He's getting lapped every 40, 45 laps or so. Again, this has definitely been as congested as lap traffic has been so far in this race. And Dave Blaney does go that 3rd lap down. Fastest lap of the day, that last time, 15.095. F132. No, I'm not. No, my sister's younger than me. I thought you guys knew that already. Yeah, she's in college. She's, by technicality, she's like 2 years and 51 weeks younger than me. Our birthday's only separated by about a week apart. But her birthday was actually Friday, this last Friday. We're practically 3 years apart. Who's counting the days? Jeff Gordon at the tail end of the lead lap now as he's stuck behind the 14 car of Sterling Marlin. Dale Jarrett, first car lap down as we run. 2.5 lead for race leader Mark Martin, his largest lead of the race so far. Definitely not going to be winning this race by 2 laps like we did with Martinsville. Youngest child. How many? Martin underneath Jeff Gordon, looking to put him a lap down. Martin squeezes under Sterling Marlin next. Kind of used Marlin as a pick to clear Jeff Gordon. And the 6 finally clear into turn 3 that time on the 14. 15.062, fastest lap of the day. Again, late in the run. We've seen that a lot on this game. That fuel load gets really light. That is when some of the faster laps of the race are turned, it seems like. At least on tracks that have at least a decent amount of grip. This car's just kind of been loose from the fire off, but the tires aren't really falling off themselves a whole lot here tonight. Haven't seen anybody make a stop yet. Caution free so far here at Bristol. Ton of lap traffic right in front of the race leader, Mark Martin. And it sounds like we've got some cars pitting this time by. Greg Biffle's into the pits. So he'll be the first of the 4 Roush Fenway Fords to hit pit road. Casey Kane coming in. Another car that was just in front of us also coming in. That's going to clear the track a little bit for Mark Martin to continue on. Oh, flipped the apron quite a bit there and still got back into the gas in my normal spot. Watch those cars coming in and out of the pits. Lap 150 at the line. Mark Martin going to be pitting very soon. Oh, well, never mind. Caution's out. Caution is out, and we will be pitting under the yellow here, and that's going to trap a few drivers a lap down. So our first caution of the race, the 144 car hits the tire barrels, exiting, it looks like, turn 2. So he was coming out of the pits, I would assume, and just was too low on the racetrack. Hit the barrels, and that is our first caution of the day. So quite a few drivers getting trapped a lap down with the caution coming out in the middle of green flag pit stops. Mark Martin will now pit during the yellow. And we're going to try to tighten this thing up a little bit. We're going to put another half round. I'm going to put a full round of wedge in, honestly. Full round of wedge going into the 6 car. Hopefully it's not going to tighten it up too much, but this thing is definitely free. And if that's not tight enough, I'm just going to try dropping the air pressure a bunch again. Little mistake on this pit stop already. The rear tire changer on the right side. Struggling trying to get the old tire off. Sadler wins the race off pit road. And obviously some other cars beat us out as well. Jeremy Mayfield going to be the leader on the restart. Mark Martin will be in 6th. Green flag back in the air. Lap 154 at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Oh, a lot of contact there. Kenseth and Nemechek. Martin still found a way to get to the bottom. Trying to make this car more snug. Mayfield got stuck behind a bunch of those lap cars. The 187 of J.J. Johnson is leading the race. I believe Dale Jr. is 2nd. Mark Martin up to 3rd on the restart now. Very, very low exit off turn 2. Martin trying to get by J.J. Johnson for the lead as Tony Raines goes a lap down again. Martin clear off turn 2, back out in front at Bristol. Didn't take long to get to the lead there. Staying low and going. This car's still all over the place, but making good work. 2 older sisters and a half brother. Smart was able to get through the lap cars on the inside of the leaders as well as the 5 drivers that beat him out of the pits with that slow stop. Not sure exactly how many cars are on the lead lap, but kind of caution in the middle of green flag pit stops definitely trapped quite a few a lap down, on top of the fact that we went 150 laps caution free to start the race, which saw quite a few drivers go a lap down at that point in time as well. How about J.J. Johnson leading this race? For a couple laps at least before Martin was able to get by. He had the best restart outside of the 6. Not sure where he restarted exactly, but it wasn't in the lead. And Mayfield, who initially restarted in the lead, just couldn't get by the lappers, was stuck on the outside. Finally got down to the bottom, but not before he fell to 4th. Now he's right behind Dale Jr. And the other lap car, Tony Raines in the 96, is still the 3rd car in line up at the front of the field. And trying to hang into that free pass position in case we get another yellow. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how long he can hold on for it there. Wall scrape off turn 2. Done that a few times today. I think that's the 3rd time I've hit the wall. That one time real early in the race, it got really loose off of one of the turns. It was either turn 4 or turn 2. I overcorrected it and I smacked the wall pretty hard. Whatever damage I would have had there, I would say mostly repaired during that pit stop. I had way more damage at Watkins Glen in the left front fender yesterday after a restart, so it wasn't like it was anything to be concerned about potentially DNFing, but you still don't want to damage your car as much as you can help it. $86, that is so much more. 27 more medals. I also don't really, like, I would imagine the U.S. is pretty much in every sport in the Olympics. I don't think that's the case for every country. I don't know what dictates, you know, what countries qualify for what in the Olympics. I don't know what, like, minimum requirements you have to meet. Like, I wonder if you need, like, a certain amount of people, or there's, like, maybe, like, a base, like, time, if it's, like, a time trial thing that they have to hit just to qualify. If nobody hits that time, then nobody from your country gets in or something. Like, I don't know what criteria. Because, like, with swimming, there's, like, what, how many lanes? Like, 8 lanes or something like that? Now, granted, that's probably, like, the finals of that group, but it's like, how do you decide, like, who those 8 people are competing? And there's usually, like, 2 of them from a couple different countries in there, too. So, I don't know what dictates. I'm sure they have qualifiers. Yeah, I haven't seen anything from the Olympics in a while. I think total Olympics I have, like, actually sat down and watched, it's probably been a grand total of about 45 minutes over the 2 weeks that they've had it for. I did see Monday Night Raw beat TV ratings. So they moved Monday Night Raw to Sci-Fi the last couple of weeks with USA Network having a bunch of stuff going on with the Olympics. Last week's TV ratings for Monday Night Raw were better on Sci-Fi than USA Network coverage of the Olympics. So they got booted to a second-tier channel, and they still drew bigger numbers than the Olympics did. During the 3 hours that they were aired for. Two things. One, shows how hot WWE is right now. And two, you know what? Why? I mean, we've seen this with like NASCAR. What NASCAR race was it this year that they moved the finish of the race because of Olympic qualifications? It wasn't even like the Olympics. This was obviously weeks before the Olympics started, but it was like qualifications that they had for track and field to see who was even going to get to compete in Paris. And they moved like the final however many laps of the race because of rain delays earlier on. It's like there's no way that was going to get more viewers than the NASCAR race you already had on. You would think. I feel like nobody really watches qualifications for the Olympics. A lot of people probably don't even know it's going on whenever it is televised. It's one of those things like you're stumbling through like the TV guide, wondering what you want to watch, and they just randomly scroll across it. But you still don't care enough to click on it. That's kind of that situation. Monday Night Raw switched to... Yeah, that was... If Monday Night Raw ended up, or like if SmackDown gets moved, because they're supposed to start on USA soon, SmackDown gets moved to Sunday afternoons, competing with NASCAR. I don't know who would win that TV rating battle. It'd be pretty tight. If it was in a Sunday afternoon, though, like, I don't know if that would help or hurt WWE's TV ratings, because they're always prime time during the week on TV. So I don't know, like, if that would help or hurt their audience, honestly. It'd probably hurt. Because more people are probably watching actual live sports more often than not. Because they're usually going up head-to-head with Monday Night Football when football season comes around, so their TV viewership usually drops that part of the year. So I'd imagine it'd be kind of the same thing. They were on Sundays, so NASCAR might actually pull better TV ratings than them on Sundays. So John Andretti leading our second pole at 40%. We got 10 laps to go before that pole closes. Dale Jr. in the second place position, still looking for his first win of the year. And Dave Blaney's now going 4 laps down in this race. He might be more if he ended up actually hitting pit road before that last caution came out. We made it to lap 150, and then the yellow flag came out, so he pitted under the caution. And I was actually going to pit probably in a lap or two at that point, so I'm glad the yellow came out when it did. Lost some time on pit road, but got back to the lead fairly quick for the most part. 10 laps or less to get back to the lead from 6th. Don't know if I can play as Blaney Spot. I don't know, man. It is definitely going to be a challenge. We're going to go from the best equipment to the worst equipment. And I don't know that I've ever tried that on this game. When I was younger and I'd play this, I don't think I ever raced as Dave Blaney. I think I pretty much raced as Greg Biffle through and through. Outside of like the Dodge like challenges or whatever. Then you kind of alternate through different drivers depending on the challenge that it was giving you, but they would also pick the driver for you. So that was kind of my getaway from taking an actual, driver on my own merit. All right, so we are 200 laps complete, so we will now end pole number 2. So again, Clint Boyer won our first poll. Our second poll had a little bit less votes, but John Andretti at 36% is going to win it. A tie for second. That doesn't mean anything because we're only taking the winner. So John Andretti wins poll number 2, and he'll be moving to the second round. All right, next poll is up in the chat. Voting options for the next poll will be between Matt Kenseth, J.J. Yaley, Denny Hamlin, or Jeff Burton. Hope I can win with Blaney. Yeah, I guess we'll get to see, how difficult the difficult will be. Have to take advantage on the super speedways for sure, because that's where the great equalizer will come into place. Now, granted, I'm not great on the super speedways with the EA Sports game, so I don't know if that really is going to be as much of an equalizer as it would on another NASCAR game, but all right, get back to the race. JJ Yaley, the redemption season of the Busch Series. Yeah, what's with Yaley winning the poll? We got some superstar caliber drivers in this poll. I'd be shocked if JJ Yaley wins the poll of the 4 that we have in it. Yeah, Matt Kenseth, JJ Yaley, Denny Hamlin, Jeff Burton. 3 of those 4 drivers have won 20 or more Cup Series races in their career. J.J. Yaley has never won a Cup race. I don't think he's ever won a... Has he won a Busch Series race? Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. You have until the end of lap 300 to vote. That's going to be right around where we're going to have to pit next. Plus we get a caution before that. Want to make it to lap 250 at the very least. And then if a caution comes out after lap 250, then I'll pit. If we get a caution before lap 250, I'm going to stay out. Because in order to make this... Well, I could probably end up pitting, actually. You know what? If a caution comes out right now, I probably would pit. Because I made it 150 laps before. We would just obviously have to stretch that middle run out as far as we can. But we were going to have to stretch it out as far as we could anyway. I don't want to pit under green here. I mean, there are so many drivers that got trapped a lap or two down with that last caution right in the middle of the green flag stops. I'm so glad I didn't pit. It would be very difficult, no matter how fast your car is, to come back from 2 laps down on a half-mile short track. Any track, for that matter. You go 2 laps down, that's it's almost a death sentence at that point. Hopefully I can get through every driver in the 5 poles that I have. Wait, it might end up... I'm hoping that I can cycle through them in 4, and then we just have the final round in the 5th pole. And we'll find out tonight who I'm racing as in the Busch Series, and then tomorrow night we'll find out in the trucks. Yeah, Bill Elliott did it once. This was also in the 80s. And it was also before restrictor plates on super speedway, so I guess it made it slightly more feasible. Considering the racetrack. It wasn't on a short track, I'll tell you that much. Contact with the 133, nothing major there. We're going to take our first field swap at the start-finish line this time by. We know Greg Biffle pitted already. Not sure about the other Roush cars. Yeah, McMurray would have pitted before the caution because he's 3 laps down now. I think I lapped him once, and then he lost 2 more laps having to pit under green. So, I mean, yeah, that goes to show you pit under green flag, you're going to lose 2 laps. Because he was right around us when he did pit. We had just passed him a few laps before. Put him a lap down. .33, this is going to be not so good finish here for Jamie McMurray tonight. His chances of getting a top 10 points finish this season aren't looking very likely. Hard telling how many other drivers are 3 laps down that he could actually battle with for position here. Considering where he's at on the racetrack as well, he's probably, looking at the track map, definitely closer to going 4 laps down than he is to getting a lap back. Oh, little contact. Scott Riggs, Dave Blaney up off turn 2. Staying green. At least for right now. We'll swap to Greg Biffle next at the line. So yeah, we did see Biffle pit. Biffle's in 14th place and he's 2 laps down. So Biffle did pit from the lead lap, and even he's a couple down. And again, in 14th, so we have quite a few drivers at least 1 lap down in the race. I'm not sure if Matt Kenseth hit pit road then before the caution came out. We'll find him out next. Castle Newman now for position. I'm not even sure if Biffle can actually outright pass anybody for position right now. by Jeff Gordon, Paul Menard. Those cars he just passed were either a lap down or on the lead lap. Racing under Jeremy Mayfield, that's very tight, 3 wide. Whipple making moves for what it's worth. And Kenseth also 2 laps down in 15th, so only Roush car on the lead lap is your race leader, Mark Martin. Every other one is at least 2 laps down, 14th on back. So again, Biffle 14th, 2 laps down, Kenseth 2 laps down, 15th, 3 laps down for Jamie McMurray in 33rd. And that's all because of a caution coming out in the middle of green flag pit stops, and all 3 of those Roush Fenway Fords had pitted prior to the caution at lap 150. Yeah, that's going to be difficult not having any teammates, too. No team orders to try and get some help. I think it's the only paint scheme he's got in the game, too. Which we did have to run Mark Martin on his only paint scheme all the way through the season also. That's up right back up to Greg Biffle's back bumper. So much traffic here. Martin still holding on to the lead in front of Dale Jr. Dave Blaney about to go 5 laps down. Lap 235. Past halfway through this current fuel run. That is a ton of lap traffic right behind the 6. And a ton of clean air directly in front of him. I think my parents have been to the UP before. I don't really have any desire to do that. I'm not one for like visiting destinations just because when it comes to traveling. I love traveling to like events more than for scenic reasons. If I do get any scenic scenery out of a traveling excursion, it's because of an event I'm going to, but which is, you know, don't get me wrong, still cool to see. Like, I'll go out of my way if I'm on the way to doing something that I want to do. But because there's really, like, nothing up there event-wise that I can think of, you know, I don't think I'll really ever make that trip personally. Jimmy Johnson catching up to the back of Dale Jr. I'm not sure if Johnson's on the lead lap or not. He was putting a lot more pressure on Mark Martin for the lead earlier than what Dale Jr. is putting at the moment. Clearly, we still have a lot of racing left. Snow statues, oh, I believe it. And Johnson did get by Dale Jr., but again, I'm not sure if Jimmy's for position or not. Starting to think he's not. He pitted before the caution, and he's trying to get back on the lead lap. Which, if that's the case, though, he could be 2 laps down. Tough telling. We'll never really know for sure unless he ends up passing us. And we'll see if our position number would end up changing or not. Dale Jr. back underneath Jimmy Johnson anyway. I can remember watching some old races at Bristol within the last couple of years, and I remember that they would kind of wrap that the left side tires like just below the yellow line where there was slightly more grip on the asphalt. You can't really run that kind of a line here. You either go like most of the way below it or above. So if I'm clipping it at all, it's mainly just because I'm missing my mark in the corner. I want to stay slightly above it, but it is forgiving here. With how good the top lane is at this track now, though, that's definitely not the way to race this track nowadays. But at the time in the Gen 4 cars at Old Bristol, when it was a fight for the bottom, that was a good line around the track. Asphalt had a little bit more grip than the concrete, especially when it was a slightly older concrete surface at one point. Jimmy and Earnhardt just keep going back and forth at each other, and they're costing each other a lot of time here. Mark Martin over half a second lead now. He's going to get by Riggs and have another bit of clean air, and he's going to catch a whole wad of lap cars, though, when he gets to the next one, and it's going to be lap traffic city once that happens. So that'll be a good time for our second field pass of the race, then, when we get up to the next set of lap cars. We're less than 50 laps away from lap 300, which again, we will end our third of 5 polls today. Again, those polls are open. I'll set a new one every 100 laps. And that is to see who I will race as in the next Busch and Truck Series season. Right now, we're going through the Busch Series polls. First 2 poll winners, Clint Boyer ended up winning the first poll over Martin Truex Jr., Todd Kluver, and Mark Martin. Forgetting a driver in there, too. There was another driver. No, I already said them all. Yeah, he beat Kluver, Martin, and Truex. So those are the 3 drivers. I think when I said Martin, I was thinking Martin, Truex. I was thinking I didn't get to all 3 of them. But anyway, yeah, Clint Boyer won the first pole. John Andretti ended up winning the second pole. He beat out Jeremy Mayfield, Boris Said, and Paul Menard. And now in this third list, as you see, it is between Jeff Burton, Denny Hamlin, J.J. Yaley, and Matt Kenseth. So if you win the poll, you move on into the next round. Which will be after we cycle through every driver the first time through. So we'll do these polls all the way through the streams over the next couple nights until we get down to the final driver for the truck in the Busch Series. There's McMurray, tail end of the line of long list of lap cars. The gap's starting to build a little bit here with these 4 in front of us and then all the cars in front of them. Speaking of J.J. Yaley, he's kind of leading this line. With contact between Jeff Burton and Yaley off the exit of the corner. 2 of our voting options.
Getting a little more cushion than usual from him.
Martin under McMurray. 15.049 that last lap. Fastest of the day for Martin. We'll take our second field pass of the race at the line.
Okay,
We have 3 of them to get to again because we did not do one. Well, we did one yesterday, but we did not get through the second one at Watkins Glen. Quite a few cautions in that race, just didn't have enough green flag laps to do it. 500 laps tonight, plenty of time to get the extra one in. Kenseth obviously still 2 laps down, about 2.5 laps down now. As we're into yet another lengthy green flag run. This is our second green flag run of over 100 laps today. We've had just one caution, it was at lap 150, and it was in the middle of the first wave of green flag pit stops. I would like to think Caitlin Clark would probably beat me in basketball. I haven't played consistently. I played like 2 times this year. I'm surprised my handling was as good as it was. My shot was not, but which is weird because it's more of a shooter, but that was also when I played back in high school on a regular basis when I actually played basketball in high school. Kenseth gets by Biffle for 14th. We will be swapping to Biffle soon, though. And back next lap at the line, we will be.
Number 141 is making his move high. Go high, go high. Clear, all clear, whatever you need. Got it.
Boban is extremely tall. And by the way, Caitlin Clark, even if I was playing basketball consistently, I guarantee she would probably still beat me. I heard that she would just basically play pickup games with like the guys' basketball team at her high school growing up, and she would be just as good, if not better than them. So I would like to think probably the best female basketball player probably in the world right now is better than me in basketball. There's a very, very good chance that that is the case. There's the 14. It wasn't by Mark Martin, it was by Greg Biffle, but a 14.964 that last lap, fastest of the day. For the Biff. Back to Jamie McMurray, who's still 4 laps down in 33rd. Just got passed by J.J. Yaley. Martin still holding on to the lead through the 2 of 3 field passes we've had today. So he continues to get through lap traffic pretty well. Matthew Dorter Bruno, thanks for tuning in. Swap back to Mark Martin at the start-finish line, this time by McMurray, got by both Johnson and Earnhardt. That is another buffer car between those two, and then the race leader, Mark Martin. And Martin's got just an absolute ton of traffic in front of him. Kyle Busch, tail end of the lead lap, unless he was already a lap or 2 down because of short pitting. Not short pitting, just having to pit, really. When he did during the green flag stops. So contact with Bobby Labonte. Nothing major though, and Martin eventually gets underneath of Kyle Busch. I probably wouldn't even be able to. I mean, you gotta consider that like my highest form of basketball that I would have ever played was varsity in high school. So anybody that's made it and played like D1 in college, even if they were on like a lower tier D1 team, they still made it on the team. Like they made the cut, so therefore, I would consider them to all be better than me. Yeah, that's kind of like the baseline. Anything below that, I feel like I might be able to at least compete. Like it'd be a good competition. Especially if it's one-on-one, because I always felt I was better at street ball than what I was at. I don't want to say team basketball, because I was still a good team player. It's just like everything that goes along with like running a particular offense. You know, I was always way better at just freelancing. I always had a hard time trying to memorize plays. I get plays mixed up. They'd call one play, I'd think it's another, and I'd get out of position. I did that a lot when I was on JV. Yeah, I had a hard time with that. In my defense, though, I knew I had a hard time with it. So I can remember even mentioning something to Coach, like if he could like create a playbook for me, so I could see the play visually, study it, memorize it. I never got a playbook. Like I never got to see a sheet or anything of the plays like individually. So yeah, I'll get something to you, you know, because it would help me out. He never gave me anything. Probably forgot about it that I mentioned it, and then like in a practice session, like a couple days later, I'd mess up on a play, and then he would get frustrated at me again. I'm like, well, you did say you were gonna give me a play sheet, and you never did. Like I get, you know, nobody else has one. I just struggled with it. I think he saw my potential, and he would just get frustrated. I'd mess something up as simple as that. That was the hardest thing for me. Memorizing a play sheet. It would always suck too, because like if you played the same team more than once, he would be one to like run the same play under a different name, and that's part of what would end up throwing me off. They'll have like code red, let's say for instance, as like a play, and it used to be like blue or something like that, or yellow, just because he didn't want the same team to catch on. Because we just played them a couple weeks before. And they might have caught something during film if like that gets ran or something. So, I mean, it was smart. I obviously understand why he did it, but yeah, that would trip me up a lot. I wouldn't cry. I'd go down swinging, but it wouldn't be competitive, I'll tell you that much. So we're in the midst of green flag pit stops yet again. 300 laps complete. We will now pause. And J.J. Yaley was... Oh, actually, we'll leave the poll open because we do have a tie right now. So next percentage between Kenseth or Yaley that goes up, that is who is going to win the poll between those two. So we're going to leave the poll open in the chat right now. We just finished lap 300 to end the poll. 33. Oh boy, look out. Kevin Harvick. Kind of slow getting up to speed there. Pitting on the... technically the front stretch. He's leaving pit road on the back stretch, and we've got a caution for the second time today. Middle of green flag pit stops, the yellow flag comes out. And... I would assume that car got hooked. Paul Menard, Elliott Sadler get together. I would assume Sadler was trying to pit as Menard was leaving pit road with the two separate pit lanes here at Bristol Motor Speedway, and that is what caused Paul Menard to go around. So Martin will pit during the yellow, and wasn't as tight on fuel at that point. I saved more gas during the course of the run. I'm going to drop the air pressure a little bit. We're going to drop the air pressure 2 pounds all the way around. So another adjustment here to try to help tighten the car up just a little more. It definitely felt better than before. All right, the pole change. I saw it. The pole changed in favor of J.J. Yaley. It got tied again, but it was in favor of J.J. Yaley after the next vote. So I saw that Yaley got voted before Kenseth. So J.J. Yaley does win the pole. I'll pause it before we get to green here, because I got to get the next pole out. And I lost the race off pit road again. It looks like Jimmy Johnson and Elliott Sadler beat the 6 out of the pits. Pit crew is not on it tonight. All right, so I got to get the next pole up. So I did see Yaley's percentage go up before Kenseth tied it the second time. Luckily, I was under caution. I was able to see it. So we'll get pole number 4 going next. All right. All right, next voting poll is going to be between Kenny Wallace, Ron Hornaday, Tony Stewart, or Kurt Busch. So that is the next poll. And then the last one for today will be Reed Sorensen, Casey Mears, Ryan Newman, and Danny O'Quinn Jr. We're not going to be able to get through all the Busch Series drivers today. So we'll finish round 1 tomorrow for the Busch Series, and then we'll get the Truck Series round 1 in tomorrow's stream then. All right, back to racing. We got 2 more polls to go. Green flag back in the air, lap 3:06. Following caution number 2. Second straight restart, we were able to get to the bottom lane pretty quickly. A couple lap cars out in front of Johnson. Sadler going to try to take his first lead of the race, and a little contact between Vickers and Martin. And Sadler gets to the lead. Martin not wasting any time. Hustles to the inside of Jimmy Johnson. 3 wide. Lapper, Stewart on the high side. Gordon still in front of Elliott Sadler, and in just a couple laps, Martin got underneath Sadler initially, got loose with catching too much of the apron for too long, and took him an extra corner to clear the 38, but he does that time off turn 2. So 3 laps to go from 3rd to 1st on the restart. Martin back in the lead again as he tries to lead as many laps as possible tonight. Again, this is all in the hopes of trying to catch the record for the most laps led in a single season. Bobby Allison's record of 4,343 laps. And we got issues right now. Greg Biffle appears to have blown an engine. So a few laps after the race start, Greg Biffle, who was outside of the top 10. Last we knew he was in 14th. Has now blown an engine. He is done for the day. Not sure exactly how many cars are on the lead lap as of right now. Still expected to have one more pit stop in this race, as we had a caution during each of the 2 green flag stops so far tonight. We make it to lap 350 and a caution comes out. I'm going to pit at that point in time because that means we will be within the fuel window to make it to the end. Jeff Gordon still out in front of the leaders, trying to stay in the lead lap in case we get a caution. Not many cars on the lead lap due to the 2 yellows we've had during green flag pit stops. 1 yellow already trapped a huge portion of the cars a lap down. The second one during green flag stops trapped even more. But we still didn't cycle all the way through, obviously. That, by technicality, was our longest green flag run of the day. We ended up going 153 laps that time, 150 laps on the initial green flag run to begin the day. Both caused by somebody leaving pit road. This one had contact between 2 cars. You had one entering pit road while one was leaving. In fact, one was Elliott Sadler. He was trying to pit. Therefore, he was on the lead lap because he caused the caution and is still on the lead lap. It trapped more cars a lap down, and he ended up finishing second on his race off of pit road. So he actually gained positions despite causing the caution. It's like something we've seen a couple times this year in NASCAR. Sounds like rule manipulation to me. Gordon's kind of pulling us too. Martin's still managing his gap over Johnson and Sadler, but Jeff Gordon's slowly pulling away with the clean air advantage he has right now. Martin trying to close. My car is getting better and better and better. Each adjustment I've made so far. I'm not sure if I'm going to make another adjustment on the next stop or not. I could probably make another adjustment. I'm scared to go too low in the air pressure and end up like blowing a tire or something stupid. I've never ran the air pressure this low. 19 all the way around. I don't think I've gone below 21. I might be able to get away with it just because it's a short track. The speeds aren't as high, but I also could just leave it, depending on when a caution could potentially come out, because if we don't get another yellow till in the middle of green flag pit stops again, we're going to have well less than 50 laps to go on the next restart. Somebody else blew a motor and is on the backstretch pit lane. Can't tell exactly who it is. They're in that first pit box on the back straightaway, though. Well, we got to get another field pass in. We'll go to Matt Kenseth in the 17. Kenseth now 4 laps down in the 18th place position. It's crazy. I'll go a few extra laps with Kenseth being Spiffles out of the race. Oh, a little contact off turn 2. Kenseth hard on the brakes on the back straightaway. Tony Raines, and it looked like whatever number of fantasy driver that is, was on his outside off turn 2. They got together. Oh, more contact. Raines keeps trying to move him. And Kenseth made contact with that same lap car too. Guy's getting the short end of every stick. Yeah, I actually saw that news earlier. Connor Zilic, full-time Xfinity Series with Junior Motorsports, will be driving the 88 car starting next season. That shocks me, honestly. I would have thought like a guy like Carson Kvapil could have potentially taken that spot. Zilic really doesn't have much Xfinity Series experience, a little bit in the trucks. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. Swapping to Jamie McMurray now. McMurray still in 33rd. And both Kenseth and McMurray pitted during, or before, I should say, that last caution, just like they did with the first yellow. So that's how McMurray is 6 laps down. Otherwise, he'd be 1 or 2 down. But instead, he's 6 down, and Kenseth's 4 down instead of being on the lead lap. That's why you got to try to stay out of the pits as long as you possibly can. Some drivers obviously burning more fuel than others. Yeah, especially full-time, because we haven't really seen Zilic in the Xfinity Series. So it's a big question mark as to what he could do. But Kvapil, I mean, he finished top 5 the first 3 races he ran in the Xfinity Series. Drivers Mark Martin the rest of the way, lap 340 currently as he leads. Ryan Newman in the 12 car is blowing an engine. Newman top 10 in points coming into the night. It's the second engine failure he's had in the last few races. Elliott Sadler in second, right behind Mark Martin. Johnson stuck behind Dave Blaney, trying to move him out of the way. Fuel window to the end of the race will open for Mark Martin in about 10 laps. Definitely not short pitting, but I wonder if I'm going to lead more laps here or at Martinsville. I led 438 at Martinsville. I definitely had a better car there than what I do here, but we made some really good adjustments. I mean, every adjustment I've made in the 2 stops we've had so far in the race today has tightened the car up, because it was way loose in qualifying. Really 3 adjustments if you count the post-qualifying adjustment. Messed with the downforce quite a bit. Tried to raise the rear spoiler just a bit more. Just the rear springs. And then we ended up in the race. Can't change any of that stuff in the race, of course. All you can really do is wedge and air pressure. So I ended up putting a full round of air, or full round of wedge in on the first stop at lap 150's caution, and then the lap 306 yellow. Dropped the air pressure 2 pounds all the way around. Gluing this baby up. Extremely little contact with that 133 car. Well, there we go. Windows open. If we get a caution anytime between now and our next pit stop, we'll end up pitting under yellow for the third and final time. Luckily, we haven't had to make a green flag stop in the race. So remember back in qualifying, I spun coming out of the pits on my qualifying lap, which maybe could have hurt the qualifying procedure a little bit. Now, granted, I was 8th on lap 2. Lap 1, I was 24th, and that was probably because I was slower getting up to speed because I was basically parked in the middle of 3 and 4 by the time I was able to get rolling. I didn't hit anything, luckily, but probably should have, like, did the old U-turn and then restarted my lap like they used to do if somebody made a mistake on their first lap. They'd kind of spin out. Nobody else was on track, obviously, until they finished their qualifying session, so they'd basically try another get up to speed lap and then come back to the line rather than just running it outright. That's what I should have done in hindsight. It's alright. It's all going to work itself out, I think. I mean, it pretty much has, considering the laps we've led. If we don't win this race, it'll be something that has nothing to do with qualifying at this point. Still qualified top 10. And have led a boatload of laps. Clinched the most laps led a long time ago in the race now. I made contact with Robbie Gordon again, by the way. I haven't made contact with many cars in the race, but I made contact with Robbie Gordon like 3 times when I've tried to lap him. That might have been all 3 times, honestly. Yeah, fuel no question like it was the last 2 nights. Last 2 nights we had a bit of pit strategy in the race. This isn't. This just go hard as long as you can and try to take it from there. Again, we don't have that pull away speed in this one like at Martinsville a couple races ago, but we still might end up leading more laps if we can hold on to it. It's a lot easier to hold on to the bottom lane with the setup we have now compared to what we had at the start of the race, because I did get passed outright a couple times early when I was kind of missing my marks, but between the amount of laps ran, it's getting more and more practice with the track. The grip is getting better as we make more and more adjustments to the car. It's going to be very difficult for this 38 to beat us. Or anybody for that matter. Just got to hope that we can stay out of the pits as long as we can again. In case that yellow comes out in the middle of green flag stops like it did the first 2 times. Ideally, I either want this to stay caution-free or I want a caution before we pit again. Ideally, I'd like a caution before we pit again so we don't have to make a green flag stop. Don't have to worry about trying to exit pit road cars coming in and having the same problem we have obviously seen with a couple other cars today. That would be the ideal situation. By the way, Jeff Gordon, that 24 car, still in the lead lap. He unlapped himself on the restart before we were able to get to the lead from 3rd to 1st. And Jeff Gordon has remained on the lead lap ever since. Problem for him is, been green for almost 60 laps, still haven't gotten to yellow. And now there's no more lap cars between himself and Mark Martin anymore. Martin with about a 7/10 of a second lead, 2 lap cars between himself and Elliott Sadler. Sadler's got a couple cars parked right down in front of him on that bottom lane. And again, that current voting poll will close after lap 400. So once we complete the 400th lap of the race, excuse me, close the poll, I'll get the final poll up, and then that poll will be up until the end of the race. So we'll have 2 second round voting polls. We're not going to finish all the first round polls today. This will be basically the final poll to set up round 2 for tomorrow. Because that's a 500-mile race, we'll just be setting the polls up every 100 miles in the race tomorrow night. We race it at Atlanta tomorrow. 325 lap 500 miler. I'm contemplating if we can even get past Jeff Gordon. Man, if Gordon gets track position late in this race, he could steal it. When we get a caution the final 50 laps, if we're expecting, I mean, that's kind of what I can't talk. It's kind of what I am expecting. If we are going to see one more yellow, I think it's going to be with less than 50 to go when we're in the middle of green flag pit stops for the third time. Just like the first two came out. And if Jeff Gordon is the one to get to the lead, he may be the one to beat. It's as close as Martin has been to lapping him since Gordon got his lap back, though. And Gordon's going to have to hang on for quite a while because we're not even halfway through the fuel run yet. Should be in a couple laps or so. But he desperately needs that yellow. Martin underneath Gordon. I mean, he can still get his free pass and get back on the lead lap. The problem is you have to restart the tail end of the longest line, which would easily be the lap line. The lap card line on the bottom of the track and not the lead lap line because there are so many cars at least one lap down. So Gordon loses a lap. That's a big pass for Martin. We'll see if Gordon can get back by him in the midst of lap traffic. Because there's quite a bit of lap traffic coming up. It's very dense up there. I mean, Tricky Solinsky's got kind of it's got a little bit of a ring to it. It's like a Harlem It's like if you were on the Harlem Globetrotters, that'd be your name. It's a good nickname. Just hoping all these guys stay wide. So far, they have. Ran at 14.991 that last lap. Was not the fastest of the day. Oh boy. Yeah, things are tight at Bristol. Little contact with Jeff Burton. Held on to it. Still second and a half lead. Gordon's losing time to Martin, which he desperately does not need. Teammate Jamie McMurray about to lose 7 laps in this race once the 6 gets back by him. Wonder how many laps down Dave Blaney is. We got a Roush car 7 laps down. Blaney's probably at least a dozen down, if not more. Get by Truex and Casey Mears, we're going to have a lot more clean air to come by. By the way, Mark Martin was 1 win away coming into the night for taking second all-time for the most wins in a single season in NASCAR Cup Series history. Was tied with Tim Flock with 18 wins for second in a single season coming into the night. Figured if we didn't get it in the next 2 nights, New Hampshire would be very, very high probability of a win there. The flatter, shorter tracks have been the wheelhouse for Mark Martin. This is a short track, but a bank one. Again, we finished second in the first Bristol race this season. Only led 5 laps. The adjustment I qualified with was the adjustment I had in that race earlier this year, and it's probably why I did not win. Looking back on it, this set up a lot better. Wasn't like that off the start, but then we're going to work on it. Hopefully we'll have a good car when we go to... Well, okay, so the problem is when I start the new season, I think my setup changes. I don't think it saves from one season to the next. So everything I've figured out on some tracks, I'm going to have to refigure it out. And because we had such a long hiatus between... I mean, we had 11 months between races. Whatever race was the Pepsi 400 at Daytona in the middle of the season to when we picked this season back up again. So whatever racetracks I didn't run at a second time from earlier this year, those setups I'm not even going to remember anyway. Not from like a year ago. So it's basically going to be like going there new all over again. It is going to be a complete reset. The good news is we do have a chase. I think that's better than a full season points format in that situation, or at least a higher probability we can win the championship, just because we're not going to have this kind of a dominant season. We just got to be top 10 in points after 26. Get the reset. Obviously, the best seeding we have, the better, because there's still points increments when you start the chase, but they are relatively tight. So Kurt Busch is leading our driver poll as of right now. We got 4 more laps for you to vote if you haven't voted yet. It's about a minute at Bristol. .2 second lead for Martin.
The 41 car is making a move. Coming up on the right. Clear on both sides.
Greg Biffle, Ryan Newman, 2 of the engine failures we have seen during this current green flag run. Post the restart at lap 309.
Lap 400. This is a long race.
We have made it to lap 400 to 500 here tonight at Bristol in just over 2 hours time. You got 400 laps complete. Pause it on the back straightaway. And it looks like Kurt Busch has won our poll. You got 43%. Kenny Wallace getting 36%. Tony Stewart, I saw leading the poll right out of the gate. Ends up at 21%. Nobody voted for Ron Hornaday. He gets 0 votes. Unbelievable. Poor Ron. All right. So we'll end it. Get the next one started. All right, let's see here. All right, so your voting options for tonight's final poll are going to be between Ryan Newman, Reed Sorensen, Casey Mears, and Danny O'Quinn Jr. The poll winner so far give me 1 second. Almost forgot to put Kurt Busch in this. All right, so round 2, pole number 1 will be between Clint Boyer, John Andretti, JJ Yaley. And then round 2, pole 2 will be between Kurt Busch, winner of this pole that we currently have up, again between Sorensen, Mears, Newman, or O'Quinn Jr. And then there will be another pole tomorrow with 4 drivers, and those 4 will end up being Brian Vickers, Bernie Lamar, Elliott Sadler, and Aaron Crocker. So that will be the final 4 there, and then the top 2 pole getters from those 2, or well, the top 1 from each of those poles, I guess, would end up being in the final head-to-head. So we'll find out tomorrow who I'm going to be racing as on the Busch Series, but appreciate everybody that's voted so far tonight. You got one more chance to do so. And if you missed out on any of the voting polls earlier today, at least you can re-vote for the winner of each of those polls tomorrow. Again, we'll be doing that throughout the stream tomorrow. So today we did it every 100 laps, with this being a 500 lap race. Tomorrow's race at Atlanta, 500 miles. So every 100 miles we'll have a different poll up in that one. 2-second lead for Martin. It was about 2.5 seconds during this run. A little more clean air for the 6. Less than 100 laps to go. Again, the goal coming into the night was to lead more than 400 laps. Ideally, if we can lead more than 425, that would put us below 400 laps led on the season to get to the all-time record for the most laps led in a single season, heading to Atlanta Motor Speedway tomorrow. The goal at Atlanta was to lead more than 150 laps from there. Try to get that number below 250 going into New Hampshire. I led more laps at Watkins Glen yesterday than what I would have thought. We led 55 of the 90. Had a really fast car. And honestly, the way the cautions played out, I was able to lead probably more laps than I would have otherwise. Not going to be able to break the record at Atlanta no matter how many laps we lead. We can go wire to wire in that one. I don't think we're going to break it. I think we literally would have tied the record if I would have led every lap of this race and the race tomorrow. So definitely not going to break that. But I'm hoping we can get within 100 laps at New Hampshire. Then we end up running New Hampshire as soon as I clinch the record there, because I won't be running the final, race or 2 of the season if we clinch the record early. And the only way I would finish out the race is if we're like late in the race anyway. But if we're in the first half of the race when we end up clinching the record, then we'll just get the Truck or Busch Series season started then. So it could start as early as Friday night with our Busch or Truck Series season opener at Daytona. Yeah, so basically one whole fuel run at Atlanta then will be right around there. Having these poles every 100 laps, though, in tonight's race, I feel like automatically made this race fly by quicker than the 500 lap race at Martinsville. I don't know what it was about that race, but that race felt like it drug on. There was only one caution the whole race. We've only had 2 yellows in this one. Maybe it was the way the yellows came out. Ooh, little contact there, Denny Hamlin. Still going strong. Third green flag run of the day of over 100 laps with the 2 yellows we've had. Very evenly spaced apart. Almost identical. 150 and 153 lap green flag runs. So if we expect this to fall right around there, we'll have between 40 and 50 laps to go at the time of the next caution. And the reason why that could be as likely as it seems, even though it seems too predictable, it's because the cautions have come out in the middle of green flag stops with cars leaving pit road as cars are entering. A couple guys hooked on each other, and the guy in the front bumper of another ends up spinning. Leads down to 1.7 seconds. Either Johnson or Sadler, whoever's in second between the two of them. If not, maybe it's somebody else, but kind of gotten through the lap traffic better than Martin the last 20 laps or so. Could just be a lot heavier lap traffic for the sixth than whoever's in second, which is very well the case. I mean, it was pretty dense there for a while. Extended the lead back out to nearly 2 seconds again. Oh, Yaley up against the wall up turn 2. Luckily, he didn't ricochet back into us. Quarter tank of gas left this point in the run at 424. And everybody's going to have to pit one more time. Oh boy. And to get on the brakes off the exit of turn 4, I thought it was going to hit the wall with the racetrack. And back out to that 2.5 second lead again. It's about as big of a lead as we've had during this green flag run. It's kind of rubber banded between 2.5 and 1.5 seconds for a lot of it. Especially on the back half of this fuel stint. And a win like it was Kyle Larson and Kevin Harvick having the most wins. Just twice as many by the end of the season. I wasn't sure if Kurt was going to get trapped behind Dave Blaney or if he was going to get underneath him there. I thought he was going to get underneath him. And to back out the gas just a little bit more as he just couldn't quite slide down underneath the 22 entirely before the 6 got to the inside of the 2. So Kurt Busch goes a lap down if he wasn't already a lap down before that. And there are not many cars on the lead lap. Both cautions in the race today have come out during the green flag pit stops. Everybody has to pit one more time here before the finish. So 3-stop race coming in. That obviously hasn't changed. Let's go in the full fuel runs before the cautions come out. And now just a 3-second lead here for Mark Martin. As much as, you know, surviving a restart later in the race might not seem like a great idea, I'm okay with a caution coming out before we have to pit again. I don't want to have to make a green flag stop and then I'm the one that gets trapped 2 laps down with literally less than 50 to go in the race. That would stink. We've had such a great race going for ourselves right now. At least we're getting the lap sled that we needed. Still like to get the win. Try to get to 20 on the season. Got to get to 19 first. That'll literally be more than half the races in a season. 36 races total in the year. Mark Martin going for win number 19 right now. Already has clinched his first career championship. 60 laps left here in the Sharpie 500. A little bit more breathing room with traffic in front and behind him. Haven't seen anybody pit yet, but it's going to be within the next few laps we're going to start seeing cars hit pit road. That J.J. Johnson guy, he led a couple laps today, believe it or not. Got to the lead after the first restart of the race, had a pretty good pit stop under the caution where he rolled out in the top 3 and gained a couple spots initially. 14.919 that last lap, fastest of the day for Mark Martin. Close to a 14.8. Saw somebody pit on the back straightaway, front straightaway as well. Yeah, so we got a couple cars on their way in or already on pit road. 50 laps to go this time by. Obviously well within the fuel window. Martin underneath Sorensen. There we go, 50 to go at the line. Of course, leaving pit road. Sorensen coming in behind. Matt Kenseth's on pit road. Obviously, Biffle blew an engine already, so he's had the red X on him for a while. Four and a half second lead for Mark Martin. Fuel tank getting very low. Oh, look out, look out, look out! Oh my gosh, big contact. Had a wad up with cars coming out of the pits. I think it was Michael Waltrip that kind of held everybody up. And as soon as I hit the brakes, I slid the tires and slammed into the 187. Then Kurt Busch slammed into the back of the 6. We do stay green.
Normally, you see him black right about now. No one inside.
That was a big moment.
You got both sides. You're all clear.
A little bit of damage now. Yeah, there was nowhere to go there. I mean, if the car didn't slide when I locked the tires up, it would have been fine, but... that could have ended much more terribly. Alright, well. We're going to have to pit. Martin's pitting this time. Lap 460. First green flag stop of the day. I kind of babied it in the pits. Could have went a little quicker. No adjustments. 4 tires and fuel. First green flag stop of the race for Mark Martin.
Tires all the way around.
Just gotta hope we stay green here, please. Please, stay green. A pit stop with 41 laps to go under green at Bristol. Repair that damage on the back bumper of the car.
Wait to merge. There's some fast cars coming up on you.
Sadler's still on the track. Oh boy.
Whatever you need, you're clear.
Come on.
Let the car come to you. Don't press it. Being nice and giving you some room to
Ay, ay, ay.
cars are pit.
Spun the tires a ton there. I am a lap down. Elliott Sadler's coming to pit road. Kurt Busch has a lot of damage on the front of his race car. He has not pitted yet. The hood is crinkled. Martin should cycle back to the lead. And he is at least on the lead lap. Oh, thank goodness I got back on my... Kurt Busch is going to shed that debris, I think, for the end of the race. See if Martin can get back to the lead at the very least first. And he... maybe, maybe not. Sadler, what a pit stop in the 38. 3 wide coming out of the pit, still 3 wide. Sadler leads at Bristol. What a pit stop. A damage that had to be repaired on the back bumper of the 6 allowed for the 38 to get out in front. Martin's going to get underneath Sadler for the lead now through 3 and 4 clear. 35 laps to go at the line. And the race is on. Between Elliott Sadler and Mark Martin for the win. And the damaged 2 car of Kurt Busch obviously is kind of picked in between the leaders now. Right behind the 6 in front of the 38.
Getting a little more cushion than usual from him. Still outside. Gotta make quite a tag team.
Biffle blew an engine middle of the race. So we actually cycled all the way through green flag pit stops that last time. About 9-10 laps ago or so now. And there's 3 cars that have blown an engine during the current green flag run. Ryan Newman, Greg Biffle. I'm not sure who exactly the other car was. All parked on the back straightaway with their pit stalls. Martin had a 4.5 second lead during that green flag run. Had to repair a little damage to the back bumper of his car after contact with Kurt Busch before he had made pit stops about 5 or 6 laps before. Luckily still stayed green. Martin now A lot less of a lead over Elliott Sadler. Really low down on the apron. Felt like the car was getting loose. Had to lift quite a bit there. Sadler just passed his lap car, but Martin puts another one between them. I'm just wondering when that debris is going to fall off on Kurt Busch's race car. There's no way it's going to hold on to the end of the race. I mean, it was flapping in the wind. I know it's a short track, but that debris was flapping in the wind. We still got 26 to go. I mean, it's been flapping since about 45 laps left, so it's been hanging on for dear life for about 20 laps now at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Which could bring more than just Sadler back into the race. We know Jimmy Johnson is on the lead lap. I'm not sure there is anybody else that's on the lead lap other than those three, but at least those three would be in it. Maybe Jeff Gordon, if he was able to get back by Biffle. Biffle having to repair a little damage on pit road. I definitely think Martin's going to lead over 400 laps today. I don't know if we're going to lead. Starting to get a little loose. Kind of like I was earlier, that damage to the back bumper. I fixed it as much as I could. I wasn't going to fix it completely, but kind of starting to feel about how it was at the very beginning of the race. A little free on entry. 20 to go at Bristol. I'm 5 minutes away from the checker. Kyle Petty blowing a motor on the bottom of the racetrack. Out of the way, we stay green. A little bit of clean air in front of the 6 for now. Tony Stewart is the next car up in front of him. For 5 more drivers yet ahead of Stewart as well. No lap cars between the top two. And an 0.8 of a second difference between Martin and Sadler on track. I don't like that this car is looser with the damage to the back bumper. This is fast if he can hang on to it. I just got to hang on to it. The good news is I don't have to hang on to it with extremely old tires. Only having to go about 40, 41 laps on these tires at the end of the race. We got a caution. I'm definitely staying out. And keep that track position. And there's that loose end again. I keep driving it onto the apron because it just turns so easily getting into the corner now. I've been doing that periodically throughout the night, but I've been doing it a lot more since I got the damage. This is a jumbled pack of lap cars up here. Makes up some really fast ones and some not so fast ones. Stuart Harvick in there, Jeff Burton, Michael Waltrip, couple fantasy drivers. We'll see how efficiently Mark Martin might be able to get through them. $12 to go. Ryan Newman, by the way, in a landslide is winning our pole. Final one on the night for the NASCAR 07 Busch Series season. As to who I will race as there. Stuart just passed the 119. Mark Martin going to try to do the same. Oh, well, a little contact. 10 to go. Martin squeezes under Stewart. Hopefully going to pass him cleanly. 1 second lead for Martin. I mean, there's a ton of lap. We're going to have lappers the rest of this race. We're not going to find a huge opening again.
Number 29, outside, outside. Being nice and giving you some room to race. Still hanging on. You're clear. Giving up some room. Go ahead, go ahead. Go ahead.
Martin under Burton.
Both sides clear.
Plus some sparks flying up there. A little contact between one of these cars in line. Probably Robbie Gordon up there with the 133. Waltrip gets slapped again by Martin. A 1.3 second lead. 5 laps to go. Mark Martin's got quite a few lap cars. Looks like 4 lap cars now between the top 2 in the running order. Still a handful of more cars in front of the 6. Time is winding down for Elliott Sadler. He's a second and a half off the lead and still losing time through this heavy and dense lap traffic at the finish. Despite cycling out ahead of Mark Martin for a few laps post green flag pit stops, he'll contact Martin and Blaney. 3 to go.
The 22 car is moving on you, right side. Getting more room than usual here.
Trying to get to the white flag. No cautions on the final lap in this game. 2 to go.
Going outside. Clear, clear, all clear.
Through 3 and 4.
Taking it easy on you. If there's anyone else, keep blocking. Here we go.
White flag. Final lap. Nearly 2 second lead.
Outside.
Wow, Kurt Busch's hood's going to hold on to the end.
Won't forget that one.
I didn't think it was going to.
Still there.
Checkered flag. Mark Martin gets win number 19. Second all-time for the most wins in a single season. Breaking the tie he had for second place with Tim Flock. Dominant night yet again on the season for Mark Martin. 19 wins in 32 races. It's like one of my best burnouts of the season too. Look at that. 19 times we got to figure it out. It's got to be like my best burnout on this game. Kind of stinks we didn't have a burnout when we won the Busch title. J.J. Johnson gets a top 5 finish. Wayne Dwight finishes top 10. We had 2 fantasy drivers finish in the top 10 tonight. That's unbelievable. J.J. Johnson finishes 5th. That's a second top 10 this week, I think. I think he had a top 10 in one of the other races we had this year. Well, recently. I think it was one of the fuel mileage races we had recently. Was it yesterday? Or maybe it was Fontana. It might have been Fontana that he had a top 10. That's crazy. 471 laps led. We definitely led more than 400 tonight. 425 was kind of ideal for me, that I wanted to lead at least that many, and we led almost 50 more laps than that. So that's more laps led than I thought we were going to have. That's pretty good. That gets us even closer to the record. It's more feasible. 4 races to go. Let me do the quick math real quick here. I don't have my Google Docs page up at the moment, so give me a second. Try to do the math real quickly and see how far off of the record we'll be going into Atlanta tomorrow for the most laps led on the season. So 471. So we are currently at 3,989 laps led on the season after leading 471 tonight. By far, obviously, the most we've had in a race this season. Well, really, Martinsville was the most we had this year. Just a few races ago, we led 438. We only led 5 laps in the first Bristol race. I mean, it was night and day difference with the setup changes I made from this race to what we had earlier this year when Jeremy Mayfield won. But, yeah, solid race all the way around here for Mark Martin. 19th win. All right, so 43 minus 39.89. We are 354 laps away. So 354 more laps led to break the record for the most laps led in a single season. We've got a very good possibility of doing that with 4 races. 325 tomorrow night at Atlanta. 300 at New Hampshire. And then 110 at Sonoma. Daytona 160. A lot easier, yeah. Yeah, for sure. My voice cracked? I didn't even know. It happens to everyone. Yeah, significant fighting shot. I'd say I think we're going to get it. As long as Atlanta isn't a dud for us, I think we're easily going to get it. Really, I mean, if I have the speed at Watkins Glen, I did at Sonoma, too. I think we had a race at Sonoma earlier this season. I think I did 2 at each. Yeah, I led 30 laps in the first Sonoma race. That's not promising. And then the Pepsi 400 at Daytona, I led 39. So that's a combined 69 lap led total. So got to try to get to within 70 to have a reasonable shot going into the last 2 races. Honestly, I think we can lead over 200 easily at New Hampshire. We might even go wire to wire in that race. So as long as I lead like, what, 54 laps tomorrow? We're definitely going to have to at least start New Hampshire Friday. I'm hoping we can get it in the first fuel run at New Hampshire. Then we can just move on to the Truck Series season opener at Daytona right after that. Ideally. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. We got to end the poll. 67%. Ryan Newman will win our 5th and final poll of the night. So 5 polls in the books. We will have more. We'll wrap up the Busch Series polls tomorrow, and we will also do the Truck Series polls during the stream tomorrow. See, 471 laps led for, Mark Martin. Jimmy Johnson finishes second with 13 laps led from the pole. Elliott Sadler started deep, 35th, still ended up finishing third. Granted, he caused the second yellow, which actually allowed him really to lead a couple laps. Then he led a couple more post-green flag pit stops. Dale Jr. had a fast car, only led 1 lap, finished 4th, though. And then, J.J. Johnson led some laps early in the race and finishes 5th. Great run for him. Jeremy Mayfield, who won the first Bristol race this year, finishes 6th today. He was the first car lap down. Only 5 cars finished on the lead lap here in this one. And then Tony Stewart 7th, Jeff Gordon 8th. What was the name of that guy again? Wayne Dwight. Wayne Dwight finishes 9th in the 119 car. Fantasy driver getting the top 10. Brian Vickers finishes in 10th. Our teammates, all 3 of our teammates finished outside the top 10. 4 laps down for Matt Kenseth in 14th. Jamie McMurray finished 31st, 7 laps down. And then, of course, Greg Biffle blew a motor, and he actually ended up finishing last. We didn't have an engine failure until lap 308, just after the restart from the second caution. 4 engine failures today. Kyle Petty, Ryan Newman, Paul Menard, and Greg Biffle, all in the final 200 laps. Dave Blaney finished the race 14 laps down. That was his pace. He was 14 laps down. 2-second margin to victory. 2 hours, 13 minutes, 55 seconds. That's a quick Bristol night race. 2 cautions, 22 lead changes. Probably wasn't even that many. Although during green flag stops the last time, it probably only changed a couple times. Probably didn't have that many lead changes. 22 lead changes when I led all but 29 laps. I doubt we had 22 lead changes. Average race speed, 119.39 mile per hour. Yeah, you know what? Now, mathematically, Johnson led 13 laps I led all but 29. How did we get 22 lead changes? We had a couple drivers lead a few laps, but yeah, the lead changes thing isn't always accurate on this game for some reason. But yeah, quick. 2 hours and 13 minutes for a full Bristol night race. So that is going to finish up the stream. We already clinched the championship, so I don't need to look at the points there. I will see you guys tomorrow night, 500 miles at Atlanta. We'll start that thing off at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope to see you then. We'll have more voting polls open as well when the stream begins. Appreciate it, everybody. Have a good rest of your Wednesday.